I hope you had a nice evening and a good night rest. So I'm happy to be together here for our last session of this meeting. First of all, I should really say that I'm very happy that we are together here. I see many of you interacting and talking during lunch or dinner or coffee breaks, and I think that's an important element of this meeting too. It's not only what is happening here in the plenary and what we will reflect in the report, but I always say for every UN meeting, I mean, the coffee breaks are also important because it brings people together. And one of the objectives of these meetings is to create a professional community. And so I think that always also has an element that you get to know each other personally a little bit, that you know, oh, this is my colleague in the other country and so. So I really feel we have made some progress in this regard, and I hope you will take this home also, the spirit, and perhaps you've also got to know the people from statistics of your country and started a dialogue with them. I can see that yesterday they have, it's a much bigger meeting, and they were going on, I think, until after 7 o'clock last night. I don't know who was there. I mean, I guess many of you did not have the patience and the energy to stay all the way to the end and listen to tax statistics and all these detailed things. But it is, of course, they have a very big agenda. And it's good. It's good. They have their statistical community that they have created over the years, and as you can see, it's a very big meeting. So your ambition has to be that in 2 or 3 years from now, when we have GGIM-Africa meeting, we also have like 200 people in the room. And so, okay. For this morning's session, we have the following sort of roadmap. I would suggest we take up the following points. Number one, the Transitional Bureau and the sort of nominations of 2 leaders of the Transitional Bureaus. Then we will discuss briefly again the working groups. I mean, we had already a good discussion yesterday, and we will build on that and see how we take this forward. And then, if we have time before the coffee break, we will go right through the conclusions and recommendations of this meeting. And I understand Andre has prepared something for us. And then there is one step of formality. There is, this body is not a formal body, and we are not reporting to anybody yet. But we had agreed yesterday that a good procedure to make this happen for the future is to write a very short resolution and ask our colleagues across the wall to put that in their formal conclusions, which would actually give us more formality next time around. So we have to agree on that text, and we should do that early. Hopefully we can do that before the coffee break, and then we can give it to the statisticians so that they include it in their report by midday when they adopt it, and then we have done the one element of formal business. And that's it, basically. I think I have, then I would be happy to come to the conclusion of this meeting. I think we are invited at 12 o'clock to the formal closing of the other meeting. I understand the Minister of Finance is giving us the honor again from Tunisia for the formal closing. So even if we finish a little bit early, please, if you want and if you're interested and if you can, come back at 12 o'clock to the other room for the formal closing there. Are there any questions on this roadmap? Did I forget anything? I'm looking at my colleagues. I always forget things, so that is not. I'm not unhappy if somebody helps me. That's why we are working as a team. Good. Did I forget something from your side? Are there any questions from your side? Something that you would like to bring up or no? Okay. Then let's move forward, a transitional bureau. So we talked about this yesterday. We need 2 leaders that would help us to steer the process, let's say, over the next year. I did forget something. I knew I had something in the back of my mind. What about the second meeting of this group? Will we discuss this here, or will we leave this open? Because I think it would be good to know that, let's say, 1 year from now, or at a particular, what is the interval, we would have an opportunity to come together again. I don't know whether there are meetings here at the regional level where many of you would come together naturally or so, and whether we would explore the calendar and see what are opportunities. Perhaps we can leave this for the moment. You can think about it a little. Derek?
Apology to the interpreter. What I think we should be looking at is the length of period required for this interim bureau, and so we can then say, okay, that interim bureau would also need to have some sort of a time frame, and I think an obvious date that we're looking at, or one of the key dates that we're looking at, would be the next GGIM meeting. I think that there needs to have been a certain amount of work achieved by that date, and then we could be looking at a meeting time after that. So I think if we can just understand the lifespan and the expectancies from the interim.
Okay, this is precisely, this is why I suddenly remembered that point, because I started talking about the transitional bureau, and then I thought it would not be fair to ask somebody to take over a responsibility, and it's not even well defined what time frame we are talking about. So let's talk about this time frame first. I think there are some pillars. One is the August meeting of the global GGIM, which is, I think we have fixed the dates already. I don't have them, but I think it's the first week of August 2000, because we had to do conference reservation in New York. It's pretty much the same week where GGIM-4 took place this year. So I think it's that first week, the first full week in August. And I would hope that many of you would be able to come, or at least we could have another side meeting where the African group meets, perhaps even before the proceedings of the GGIM, so that you could formulate positions that reflect the where Africa stands, or at least certainly during. So that is, but that's a bit of an informal meeting, and that meeting in August would then formally, the global proceedings would formally confirm the establishment of GGIM-Africa. So then we would have to look at a meeting here in Africa after that. I would think, I would have hoped within a year's time frame, but I mean, a year is always very quickly over. I don't know how you feel with this arrangement back-to-back or in conjunction with the statisticians. The statisticians meet only every 2 years, as far as I understand. So I think the statisticians will now, if they maintain this rhythm and this cooperation with the African Union, then they may not meet again until the fall, the end of 2016. So that's pretty far away. So I would say we should aim for, and of course I understand it depends also on financial support, and we would have to discuss this with some potential partners. And I commit myself that I would definitely talk to my colleagues in ECA and partners here in the region what we can get. But let's say in about a year from now, or perhaps if we don't manage December 2015, early in 2016, let's say within the next 15 to 18 months, there should definitely be a meeting. That would then be the first formal meeting of UN GGIM-Africa, and I think it should be also well prepared. I mean, after August, after the formal mandate, we should not necessarily rush it. We should make sure that there's also a good participation, that at least, let's say, 20 director generals from the region will be actually able to participate and so on. So I would look at the time frame of, let's say, 15 to 18 months at this moment, to try to organize the GGIM meeting, the first formal GGIM-Africa meeting at the end of 2015 or early 2016. So coming back to the transitional leaders then, the transitional leaders, and we hope to get two, they would have the following tasks. I mean, lead the process from here to that first official meeting, help in the work closely with the ECA Secretariat to prepare that meeting. Also feel responsible for steering the process and helping the working groups to move forward, not do the work of the working groups, but I mean sort of be in contact with them in regular intervals and sort of encourage them to move the work forward so that we can have some results that can actually be presented then at that first formal meeting to take the work forward. That they would also be the counterpart for the ECA Secretariat on all matters of GGIM, and would perhaps, if there is any global meeting and there is a need of representation from Africa, they would speak with some authority representing the region, because they're coming out of this meeting and they are in the process of leading to a formal group. So I think in a couple of words I tried to summarize the terms of reference, the job description of these transitional leaders. Are there any questions? Do you have any? Did I leave out something? Yes, please. Thank you.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je pense que peut-être il y a aussi une formalité à faire de la part de la CEA concernant codistes. Bon, il est fini. Je ne sais pas si ça a été déjà fait auprès de la conférence des ministres, ou bien aussi faire le nécessaire pour les informer des dispositions qui ont été prises et la prochaine réunion, lors de la prochaine réunion des ministres des Finances, du plan de la CEA. C'est important.
No. Thank you very much for this important point. You're absolutely correct. My understanding, and I'm looking at my colleagues from the ECA, is that this resolution that we will discuss in a couple of minutes, that will then formally go from the statisticians to the ministerial conference, will suggest that GGIM-Africa is formally established with ECA as the secretariat. That is the most important sentence that will enable my colleagues to continue their support to you, and that it is understood that this is the follow-up mechanism to CODIST, because in a way that we can build on the last resolution of CODIST when they actually already decided this. So there is that you're absolutely right, that will then complete that chain from CODIST to GGIM-Africa and make that transition official also not only in our eyes, but also in the eyes of the ministers. Derek, yes.
Thank you, Chair. On that basis then, I suppose the timing of the first GGIM-Africa meeting should then be after the approval by the Council of Ministers. I'm not too sure if ECA have any idea as to when that would be.
And Andre, did you want to answer? Did you?
We're going to make a resolution today to go forward to the Council of Ministers to establish GGIM-Africa with ECA as the Secretariat. When will the Council of Ministers meet to consider that? When is the next Council of Ministers meeting? Yeah, that's it. When is the next Council of Ministers meeting?
Sometimes around
January 2015. Okay, so that's very soon. Yeah, okay.
Thank you. A very important point, because the two pillars of the existence for GGIM-Africa will then be in Africa, the adoption by the Council of Ministers, and then in New York, the August decision. But both of them should be ticked by August, I'm not going to make the same mistake. By the middle of next year. So I would say then that opens, the GGIM meeting could be anytime after September 2015. So do we have any interest of, or any nominations? Do you have any suggestions for persons who could be, who have that profile, who have that kind of experience to lead the process in that transitional preparatory phase? Andre, sorry. Persons. It's country. Excuse me. It's a very good question, but I mean, in official UN processes, and we are sort of in pre-official territories, so we are not necessarily bound by all rules, but I think the understanding generally is that it is a country represented by somebody we know. But should that person, for instance, leave the government and be replaced by somebody else, that the successor could take over the function. So I think we are looking at countries primarily here. So you would, as represented by an individual that we know very well. Thank you for that clarification. Derek.
We would like to recommend that for the two co-chairs that we select one from an English-speaking country and one from a French-speaking country. So I think if we can first consider that one. I think English and French are the two main recognized languages.
It would be, I think it would be nice if we get this combination. I don't want to make it a formal requirement. I appreciate your, I myself mentioned this yesterday and I agree. I think it would be welcome, but we don't want to make it a formal requirement, because also we have more than two official languages in the region and so. And did you want to suggest somebody?
From an English-speaking country, we would like to nominate from Ethiopia, Mohammed Sultan. I think that he will give us also that link, because he's currently serving as the rapporteur for GGIM. So I think he will also give us that link from Africa into the the mother body. From the French-speaking country, unfortunately, I don't have a particular nomination.
Thank you very much. This is a very good suggestion. Would you like to respond to that? Do you think Mr. Sultan would be available for this task? Because I personally also agree that the link with his function as the current rapporteur of the global body is useful.
I thank Dr. Derek for the choice that Mr. Sultan Mohammed is also a rapporteur in GGIM, and at the same time is the best fit for the work. And he can do two things at a time. I support the nomination of Mr. Sultan Mohammed for the task. Thank you.
Thank you. So we appreciate this confirmation. Are there any other comments, questions, suggestions? Yes, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think sitting here is a bit difficult. It will not be noticed. I think my position was better there. I want to go just a little bit back. I suggest instead of only 2, because of the diversity of Africa, to increase that number probably to 4, so that we have, again, 2 English-speaking and probably 2 French-speaking. That's my suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's a very interesting proposal, possible proposal. We have further interventions. I just give the microphone to my neighbor here. That is easy.
Je voudrais dire que si la proposition non écrite et non formelle d'un représentant anglophone et francophone est maintenue, le Burkina Faso serait un bon candidat pour la partie francophone.
Merci. Thank you very much for this proposal. May I just, before I give you the floor, ask whether the representative from Burkina Faso would like to...
Oui. Merci bien à la Côte d'Ivoire de faire la suggestion. Je pense aussi que le Burkina Faso, du fait de son implication dans le processus depuis bien longtemps, notamment à travers le directeur général de l'Institut géographique du Burkina, pourrait continuer à travailler dans ce groupe-là avec toute l'expérience qu'il faut. Merci bien.
Merci. Thank you very much. May I give the floor now to my colleague?
Just a proposal. We are speaking about transition. I think it will be good to have some country that have lead the process to Codist. And I think South Africa is the case because we have chaired the Codist for many years. And I think joined also the proposal from our colleague from SMD to add 2 countries to the process. I think this will be
good. Thank you. Very good proposal. Does South Africa want to react to that immediately? May I just take the prerogative of the chair and throw in one other idea, and this just came to me right now. But we will in a moment be looking for leaders of working groups, and I think we yesterday talked provisionally about the idea of having 4 working groups. If we say the chairs or the leaders of the working groups would also be members of the transitional bureau, then we would have even a transitional bureau, a leadership team for Africa that consists of 6 people then, and or 6 countries, and then you would try to kill two birds with one stone. You have lots of diversity and you have the leadership of the various working group streams, so that we are not competing here between working group leaders and bureau positions. That is just one idea I just wanted to throw in the mix.
Chair, we support that proposal of yours.
Okay, thank you. Andre? There's one. Just to help the interpreters.
Yes, let me rather stand. One of the issue we raised is how we sustain what we commence. Sustainability was underscored as very critical aspect of setting the UN GGIM-Africa. And in this regard, I also believe with the last proposal made that we need a kind of continuity in terms of leading this process to successful, to fruition. I applaud for the nomination of Ethiopia and Burkina as co-chair, but I would like to slightly modify the proposal done by Mr. Timulali in requesting maybe South Africa to be also part of this transitional team as special advisor, because they know the process since the beginning and they were really involved in Codex Geo since the last 10 years. And I would like to draw attention of all country delegate and partners that this kind of task is demanding. And we need commitment, engagement, because our pocket is weak so far. We don't have resources. So in taking responsibility, you are also committing yourself to do the work by your own. That should be made clear at the beginning so that we don't sit and say, oh, we didn't get any resources to give phone calls or to meet or something like this. And I believe we can have a transitional bureau. We don't want 10 persons in the bureau. We need 2, 3 persons, 3 countries that are really committed. And the nominations are so far very good. Ethiopia, Burkina, but I would rather ask if the meeting can agree that South Africa be a kind of special advisor in the process. And then we can now complete with the working groups to set up the things. That's what I want to say at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Andre, and we hear the voice of experience here. Andre has been helping us as a secretary in the secretariat functions for many, many years, so I think he has been through different phases, and he definitely is the spirit of his proposal. I'm just collecting some more interventions.
Thank you, Chair. I hear Andre, but I think when we started this topic, you said, yes, we know individuals who would, make, a contribution, but here it's about member states. I think we need to tread very carefully. And the other thing, there was a suggestion about 4. Now, I don't know whether this is a counter proposal to the 4. Nominations to the Bureau. Again, if we maintain the nomination of a country, not of individuals, I would stress that. Because some of us sitting here, we need to report back as to how things are moving, you know. So I'm just saying, because somewhere, somehow we go, you know, off the tangent. I thought the proposal here would be dealt with. If rejected, rejected. If there's counter, counter. Thank you.
Okay, at this point, I think we are still collecting ideas, so I didn't want to put anything to a vote yet. I think we have like two proposals, 0 or 3 even. The original proposal was to have 2 co-chairs, then there was in the Transitional Bureau, and then there was a proposal to increase that number to 4 co-chairs, and then I had taken the liberty of throwing into the discussion the idea of a bureau consisting of 2 co-chairs plus the 4 leaders of the working groups. That was, I think these are the 3 designs of a transitional bureau that we have right now. And I'd be, so in a way we would have a bureau of 2 people, we would have a bureau of either 4 that is just bureau function, or we would have a bureau of 6 that has a mixture of bureau and leading working group functions. So I think I would like to hear some reactions of what you think. Should we, what would you like your bureau to look like? Just the 2 leaders? We augment this to 4, or we do the 2 leaders plus, we could then even do 4 plus 4, but then we are at 8 and it's becoming a little bit complicated. So I was wondering whether perhaps you could just, because you were the last speaker, comment on this, and then what would be your preference under these scenarios?
Okay. For me, this is a technical sort of, you know, stream representing the geoinformation, you know, and it has to be strong. I hear Andre saying you need to commit, you know, to this. Also, Andre, we have work back home that pays, you know, our salaries for our families. You must also think about that. Chair, just to simplify it, I know there's 4 working groups. Am I correct? Yes. I think 2 for me, it's sufficient. But you know, there's this thing in Africa when people feel that, you know what, we're not represented. You know, they start, you know, not, you know, they pull back and then not belong. On the AFREF, I'm just copying something that I saw during the AFREF presentation committee, where there were 4 sort of sub-regions. You have the north, east, west, and south. In that way, you have all corners of Africa represented. So everybody now belongs. So that would be my proposal. Now you're going to have 4 and 4. Thank you.
That is, no, I like, it was a wonderful proposal, and I in particular, I'm grateful to you that you're helping me with the African geography. You're bringing in the internal distribution. So I think we are looking at a situation where we already, if we are discussing now 4 leaders in the Bureau, I think we have a proposal already where we have somebody from, we have Burkina Faso and Ethiopia. So I think I believe if my geography is correct, we are covering the east and the west. So perhaps we would need a proposal for a candidate from the north and a candidate from the south. And bearing in mind one of the other conditions, we in the UN, we're trying always to square 25 conditions, then we would have perhaps French speaking from the top and English speaking from the south. And there was already a proposal for South Africa. And I see South Africa nodding. I hope that means that they would be willing to accept the candidature for the south.
You mean the nominations that was made earlier for South Africa? Nomination accepted, Chair. But I just wanted to add, you know, something, because when you use the sub-regions, you know, the issue of language, I think it's covered. Because those regions, they have a way of communicating amongst themselves. I mean, we've got the sister to RCMRT, you know, it's all French and, you know, and English, and they're able to, you know, to deal with everything. So in that way, we're not dividing Africa into languages, you know. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that is very, very helpful. Okay, I see another intervention.
Merci beaucoup. Je ne suis pas très bon dans la définition de mécanisme. Donc, voilà. Donc, mais ce que j'avais bien compris dans l'intervention d'André, donc c'est la proposition que je formule. Hein. C'est un bureau qui sera dirigé par l'Afrique du Sud, qui comprendra les deux pays, Burkina et l'Éthiopie. Et pour les 4 groupes de travail, l'Algérie se propose d'animer le groupe arrangement institutionnel. Merci beaucoup.
Pardon. J'ai vu, on collecte les interventions, merci. Est-ce que je vois la Tunisie?
Peut-être que la Tunisie pourra présider ou bien le groupe Bidding Competence. Pour l'Afrique du Nord, voilà.
Thank you. If I understand, I have another intervention here.
Non, je crois que je suis un peu troublé parce que les propositions vont un peu dans tous les sens. J'ai cru savoir, lorsqu'on a fait la première proposition de l'Éthiopie et du Burkina, André avait suggéré l'Afrique du Sud comme conseiller spécial pour une question de continuité. Mais cette idée a évolué et on a dit que pour l'équilibre régional, il faudrait 4 personnes dans le bureau transitionnel et 4 personnes dans le groupe de travail pour assurer l'équilibre régional. C'est ce que j'ai cru comprendre.
Thank you. If I may just clarify, just to see whether I understood correctly and help me where we stand in this discussion at this point. We have evolved to, and I apologize, perhaps my proposal mixed up the discussions of the Bureau discussion and the working group. So perhaps we can separate this again. Perhaps just look at the Bureau right now. I think that may be helpful. So I think we have now evolved to a proposal where the Bureau should consist of 4, the Transitional Bureau. And if I have correctly understood, we have 4 proposals of countries. It is Ethiopia, Burkina Faso, Tunisia, and South Africa. So that's where we stand right now. And we will discuss the working groups in a minute. And then I would just perhaps as a general remark say, if somebody is in a bureau, that they can still lead a working group, that one does not exclude the other, that doesn't, and the bureau can still invite the leaders of the working group to be part of the bureau work. So depending on whether there's overlap or not, there would be potentially 6 or 7 or 8 members of the Transitional Bureau. So this is, I believe, where I hope that was a useful summary of where we stand right now, and I'm happy to take questions or additional comments.
Chair, I'd like to request ECA just to confirm this, but as far as I know, there are actually 5 sub-regions within ECA. We are forgetting that Central Africa is also regarded as a sub-region. I think we also need to remember that this is just an interim thing. It's not the final thing. This is just going to be a workhorse to get things going. So I don't think, as was cautioned before, you know, this cannot be a big committee, a big bureau. I think we need to make sure that we don't lose that expediency.
Thank you. I saw there was a, did I see your, no, okay, perhaps that was solved. Andre, did I see you? No? Oh, Rob.
Sorry. Yeah, thanks, Derek. Yes, ECA does divide Africa into 5 sub-regions, but there are so many different ways of dividing Africa, be it by economic regions, by economic, regional economic commissions, etc. I think what we do need to focus is, 1, yes, it's transitional, and 2, it's about getting the right people to actually do the job. As has been pointed out, this is not paid, this is not funded, and you still have your own job to do as well. So, yeah, let's just get the right people there.
Thank you for that clarification. So I feel there's a little bit of a dilemma that on the one hand, you, Derek, rightly introduced that you said if we using the geography, the internal geography as a guidance, we should have somebody else. On the other hand, you also said you don't want to build up a group that is too big. My suggestion, if I'm from an outside perspective, if that is helpful, I certainly don't want to put this upon you. I think as we are still in an informal stage, and it is important, as you said, to get the right people to the table, and a correct sub-regional representation is not a formal requirement. I would, at this moment, I think with the 4 candidates proposed, we have actually naturally a very good sort of spread over Africa, covering different regions. So I would hope that every African country finds, if they want to speak to one of the Bureau members, they would find a natural counterpart to do so. Then I would, at this moment, perhaps want to stop the discussion, not stop the discussion, but intervene and ask, have we come to a preliminary conclusion in the discussion on the Transitional Bureau? And if I correctly summarize the proposals, the proposal has evolved from 2 to 4, and the proposals were Ethiopia, Burkina Faso, Tunisia, and South Africa to be part of the Transitional Bureau. Would that be acceptable to this group? I see no objections, so I congratulate you. I think perhaps we can give the countries elected a short round of applause. So my congratulations. We have, out of this process, we have a transitional bureau, and I'm sure my colleagues in ECA and also we in New York, we are looking forward to working with you. So now let's move on to the discussions of the working groups. And as I said before, there may at the end, I mean, first of all, somebody who is in the Transitional Bureau can still take on the responsibility for one work stream. I think one does not include the other. Second, at the end of the discussions on the working group leaders, we can still have a discussion whether the Bureau should invite the working group leaders into its work. Or the Bureau can decide that, I mean, anyway, I mean, what they see as most expedient. Let me recall the working groups that we suggested yesterday. Of course, we can still change that. It's your meeting. But we had working group 1 is all the efforts of AFREF. that are continuing and that should be taken under the umbrella of GGIM-Africa. Then we had a working group that should focus on the issues of fundamental data, metadata, and standards. Then we had a proposal for a working group that looks at the issues of institutional arrangements, legal frameworks, of the environment in which we are working. And then there was a working group to be looking at capacity and capability development. And let me just try to make a summary of how I think those working groups could be operating. So if we find a leader now here, I would suggest that the leader would, together with ECA, we can have a short discussions of what the working groups should accomplish. We should try to perhaps keep it focused and make a program that we had talked initially about 15 to 18 months. What can be achieved in these 15 to 18 months? So I think you could also look at the global level or what other regions have done and develop perhaps some proposals of what can be done. So the lead that we determine today, hopefully, if we find somebody in this room, would then work with ECA and within the next, let's say, couple of weeks, next month, hopefully, come up with a very short proposal of what this working group could do in terms of reference of the working group. And that could be shared with the Bureau. If the Bureau says this is okay, then I would suggest this would go out from ECA to the membership, to all 54 African countries, saying this is the working group we have formed, these are the works to be accomplished over the next 15 to 18 months. Would you be interested to be part of this working group? And then comes, of course, a critical moment because we would see whether there is enough interest. And there may be lots of interest, that's wonderful, then the working group can go ahead and actually do its work. And there may be a problem because nobody reacts. And then we have two possible avenues. We can either say there is not enough resources and material and interest for this working group. The Transitional Bureau can look at the situation and say, perhaps we have to postpone that work, or perhaps we have to make a special outreach effort because you know that there are 1 or 2 or 3 experts in the continent, somewhere in the countries, and we say we will make a phone call to those and follow up and ask, wouldn't you be able and willing to be part of this working group? I don't think we need a lot of people for a working group. You don't need 20 people for a working group. If you find 2 or 3 people that are willing to move this a little bit forward, I think you can make a lot of progress. So, I think we don't need to have a long discussion on AFREF. I think AFREF is well established and well represented. So I think that work, you have your own structure, your governance body, and I think there's no reason to interfere with something that is working well. So I think that is the first one is established, or unless there are any questions or...
We just need to, for the record, indicate who we are electing as the lead of that working group.
Okay. Now you have to forgive my ignorance. Is there a regular structure from AFREF that a country is currently the designated or elected chair of a governance body?
Sorry, if I can just, there was under CODIS GEO a lead that was elected. So I'm not too sure now whether there needs to be, because CODIS doesn't exist anymore, whether there needs to be a election as such, if you want to call it an election. I don't know. I don't know if Andre or Rob can advise on that.
Does AFREF, you have a governance structure, no? Do you have a governing board or if I understood this correctly, or an executive committee?
Yes, indeed we have, and I was expecting Andre to react to that. I think all those who attended the expert working group, you saw a slide on the governance structure, where we have two co-chairs, myself, that is representing the Regional Center for Mapping of Resources for Development, and another co-chair whose institution does not exist anymore. Then we have regional representatives, or sub-regional representatives, Namibia for Southern Africa, Tanzania for East Africa, Nigeria for Western Africa, Egypt for North Africa, and Cameroon for, no, not Cameroon. Andre, that was Congo. Yeah, Cameroon, yeah, for Central Africa. And we do have also rectors in that organizing committee with the ECA as the secretariat. Thank you.
Thank you. Derek?
Sorry, Chair, for this, but I think just on a point of order, as I said, that AFREF was a working group of CODIS-GEO, and the co-chairs were elected by CODIS-GEO. It is improper for the group themselves they're not an autonomous body. So what I'm saying is that there just has to be the formal process that if AFREF is going to be a working group of this interim committee, we just have to go through the process of saying this is the chair of that, or the lead of that working group.
Okay, I agree with you. I was just trying to understand the structure. One possibility would be, of course, that perhaps a member of the transitional bureau would be designated to be that liaison person, if that is a possibility. I don't know how this was handled in CODIS before. Andre?
Just to make the precision that in the former CODIS, we have been operating through electing the convener of the working group. But the participation to the working group is open, is free. Is open to member state and also to regional institutions, or even to observers which are interested in the team of the working group and want to contribute. So my suggestion at this stage is to nominate or to elect, it depends, the conveners of each working group, and then each and every member state can then choose to belong to all of them or to one of them regarding to their own interest, and that's all.
I think that's exactly where we are. I think let's be, we are only looking at the conveners at this moment, not at the members, so I appreciate and thank you for putting up this little table that will help us. I think we have just one, I think, procedural or point of order issue. I think whilst AFREF is well represented, is well structured, and I'm certainly looking forward to Dr. Farah doing all the lead work the way he has been doing this. I think he does not represent a country, and we don't want to confuse his role. He has his role. I think he is working for a group of countries, and I think if I understood Derek's point correctly, we have to put a country of this group here in charge of being the leader and working very closely together with Dr. Farah to make sure that this work stream is linked back to the intergovernmental process that UN GGIM-Africa is. I think that's just the only little procedural element that we are struggling with right now. So I'd be grateful, and in that sense I made a proposal that perhaps somebody from the already elected Transitional Bureau could take that responsibility. In that table of Andre, that would be perhaps then just simply become co-conveners. So we would have RCMRD / a country that would have that responsibility. So I was interested whether somebody would be, who is also knowledgeable and active in the AFREF process, would be willing to take that responsibility.
Ethiopia.
You think? Okay. Thank you very much for this proposal that takes us forward. So we would have under conveners in that first column, Ethiopia / RCMRD. Thank you. Okay, in the next column, the next are easier in that respect, because easier or more difficult, because we have to create something new. So I encourage all of you to look at the working groups of fundamental data sets, working group 3, institutional and legal frameworks, and 4, capacity and capability development. Do we have any nominations or candidates for the conveners of these 3 groups? Rob, perhaps you can help us with your knowledge of the situation in the continent.
No, thanks, Stefan. I just want to add, again, you're not starting from scratch in any of these areas. Firstly, Curtis Geo has got extensive documentation and experience in this. The other areas, these are areas that are actually being covered by GGI, the global GGIM, and you can draw down on that experience. You may remember yesterday when I put up that slide of all the different projects and participants. One of those ones was UNGWIG, the UN Geospatial Information Working Group, which also looks at issues such as this. And when it comes to fundamental data sets, I am the convener of the UNGWIG fundamental data sets. So there's lots of experience, there's lots of documentation that's not starting from scratch. And there's lots of other people to talk to on this one, so I just want to add that. Thank you.
Thank you for this clarification. I think I should, sorry, I may have missed before because we were so focused on the Transitional Bureau discussion, but let me just clarify with our colleague from Algeria. I think you mentioned institutional arrangements and legal frameworks. Could we interpret this that you and your country would be interested to lead this working group?
C'est vrai, hein?
What?
Ce sera un honneur de nous de diriger ce groupe. Et je propose d'ores et déjà maintenant, hein, c'est-à-dire notre proposition d'accueillir, si vous voulez maintenant, une fois que tout le travail maintenant est terminé, nous supportons, c'est-à-dire une rencontre au niveau d'Alger, que nous supportons donc totalement, donc on le fera avec plaisir. Hein. Donc si vous voulez démarrer les travaux de cette structure. Hein. Voilà.
Well, thank you very much to respond to this. We would have a similar situation as in the first case. There is a possibility of co-convenership, but it should be clear that the country is taking a lead, and the country can actually then work together with all kinds of institutions. In a way, I'm not sufficiently familiar whether Rectors is the only institution sort of providing training. I think there may be many others, so perhaps the issue is to find a country that leads and then brings in all of these institutions that are working. Yes, well, first of all, well, there are several now. There's Tunisia, Cote d'Ivoire. Did you want to respond immediately? And I see your Nigeria.
Right.
Perhaps I'll go first to Tunisia.
Thank you. So I am proposal for Tunisia in fourth groups because we have a lot of training and we can develop this. It is possible to have the nomination.
Thank you. So I really appreciate your support. So Tunisia is offering itself as the convener of Working Group 4. And of course it would be understood in cooperation with Rectors, I think along the lines of the proposals made before. Would you want to respond to so we have one candidate so far, I mean Tunisia, would you, because you were proposed, also Cote d'Ivoire was proposed as a possible candidate, would you like to respond to that? You can work together with Tunisia also.
Je remercie le collègue du Niger de proposer la Côte d'Ivoire. Effectivement, si la Côte d'Ivoire peut être choisie comme animateur du groupe de renforcement des capacités, ça permettra de créer une synergie avec le Burkina qui est déjà membre du bureau transitionnel et on a déjà de bons rapports avec le Rectas. Et puis, je crois savoir qu'il y a un projet de création d'une école pour la partie statistique à Yamoussoukro en Côte d'Ivoire. Et je pense que la Côte d'Ivoire serait donc au centre de tout ce système pour créer la synergie nécessaire.
Thank you for this offer. So for the moment we have two candidates, but we can work this out. We have another intervention here. Rectors, so we can have Rectors as one of the members of the group, but Rectors is not a country. So unfortunately, Rectors cannot formally be in an intergovernmental process the leader of this thing. So we very much appreciate the support.
Yes, Nigeria has always been supporting Rectors. Nigeria has always
Nigeria. Yes. So are you suggesting?
When you talk more of Rectors, you are actually talking about Nigeria.
Sorry, I did not understand you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm saying that for capacity building, when you talk more of Rectors, you actually talk about Nigeria, because Nigeria has always been there to support Rectors anytime they come knocking. So I'm proposing Nigeria here, and we will be ready, yes, to assist.
So we have three proposals for the conveners of this group at this moment. We have Nigeria, we have Cote d'Ivoire that offered, and Tunisia that offered. So that's wonderful. At the end of the day, we started with trying to find people who would engage, but now we are in this situation. Now, I'm very happy about the situations. We can even have co-conveners and so, but I mean, I hope that everybody who is signing up for this group will definitely be an active member. There is no protocol to deal with the situation. I'm very happy also for the 3 countries to work together to lead the group. And I think I've working for the United Nations 25 years. You should never turn somebody away who wants to help you and wants to work. So perhaps I can suggest that the 3 countries work together and to lead the group and work together, because what we said at this moment, the first step is to develop a short terms of reference or concept note. So perhaps the 3 countries together with other institutions that are relevant and can work with ECA on preparing this note, and would then be sending this out to all the member states and inviting others to join the group. I mean, I get the impression Working Group 4 is going to be very popular. So, and that is a good thing, because capacity and capability is an important topic. So can we take the little table that Andrew was miraculously producing as we were discussing as the conclusion of our debate? So we have at least 1 convener for each group who is committing to take the work forward. And we have some institutions that have already been suggested that have to be members or are de facto members of these various work streams. And there could be others. This is the member columns right now is just to keep a record of our discussion. The important column is the conveners column. So can we conclude that this is the next step forward as agreed by this group? Wonderful. Thank you. So then I think we have also a lot of engagement from this group and some concrete results to take the work forward. So I mean, I'm happy for my colleagues from ECA. So I think the definition of the scope of the working groups I would then leave to the conveners to work out with ECA and perhaps exchange some ideas and that would be the process of developing within a month a kind of terms of reference or short concept note that could just be 1 page. And I would just encourage you all to make use of the global materials, because of course you're not starting from scratch. There's a lot being done already, and you may just simply look at what the global working groups are doing and insert your voice of Africa in that. Make sure that whatever is relevant is taken on board by you. And then I think I would, if that's acceptable to you, I would move on to the conclusions of the meeting and the, what time do we have actually? The resolution. I forgot thank you. Yes, South Africa, please.
Thanks, Chair. Before we move to the next item, I think I just want to raise one of the C's that my colleague talked about on Wednesday. Communication. By electing these members to convene this thing, it doesn't mean they have ownership of this. This must be communicated to all countries, because I might have people who are interested in participating not only in fundamental data sets, but in others. In fact, it is my responsibility to make sure that South Africa is represented to all the working groups. So if South Africa is leading fundamental data sets, that working group doesn't belong to South Africa. It belongs to the entire continent. So we need to share information. You know, from time to time, ECA assists us so that we can have access to whatever work is happening in each working group. Not be surprised when we meet in New York or somewhere Now there's these huge documents, you know, that we have to go through in the hotel, you know. So I'm saying communication. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes? Nigeria?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we are missing out one thing again. Under the capacity building members, I want RCMRD to be there. Actually, I left Nigeria for a training at RCMRD. So I want RCMRD as a member of the capacity building.
Just to clarify, thank you for that proposal. I think the two interventions go in the same direction in the sense, what is happening next? And I just wanted to clarify that I think you're absolutely right. Communication is critical, and thank you for reminding us, because, and I know exactly what you're talking about, reading a report in the hotel room at night, mostly. So no, I mean, these conveners are invited to develop a concept note and then invite all African countries and relevant institutions to participate. So I hope when in a month from now or so, that membership column will be much broader and will have many African names, many countries, and also other relevant institutions that can and must contribute to the work of these groups, because what you really want to do is to muster all the resources that the continent has. And as our colleague from South Africa reminded us correctly, the working groups should regularly, with the help of ECA, keep everybody else informed, because you cannot be on every working group, but sometimes you want to know what is going on. So perhaps the Bureau can also think of a mechanism of every 2 to 3 months or so, quarterly, get an update from the working groups and make sure that with the help of the Secretariat, this is shared with everybody in the continent, so that we all get a sense of where this is progressing. Andre, yes.
Mr. Chair, I wish to apologize first for what I will want to say. In my country, we are always saying that too many chiefs spoil the sauce. It can be painful because we have many countries willing to serve, and this is the first time we are seeing enthusiasm. But I would like to clarify the last working group conveners. Let's agree on one country to be a convener of this working group, and the others can be member of the working group. I believe that will be more efficient than having too many countries, and then at the end of the day, you don't have clear responsibility. Will say, okay, I expected that Nigeria would do that, and Nigeria will say, okay, I will also waiting Tunisia to do that, and you know, you don't have clear responsibility. We are all together. It will be painful to choose a country, I know, but we should make it and have only one convener for the working group, and the others are members. I would be happy to hear other countries saying, okay, I want to be member of AFREF, I want to be member of Fundamental Data Set, I want to be member of legal framework, and so on. My suggestion to go through it and make the choice.
Okay, now thank you for this, again, voice of experience and so. Let me just clarify from a procedural point of view, it is not necessary, and in fact we also do not have the means to decide, because there can't be something like an election at the end of the day. There are various ways in which you can solve this. They could stay co-conveners and agree among themselves whether somebody takes the lead or takes the lead on certain issues. What I think we can do now is ask whether anybody of the countries would like to step back at this point and say, okay, I'm happy to be a regular member, I will contribute to the group. Then that would solve the situation. But I don't see any other way to resolve this at this moment.
I think I do have, Chair. May I suggest that the 3 countries, they go outside for 5 minutes and then come back with their proposal. Let's give it to them. Thank you.
That's a wonderful proposal. I thank you for that. And let's. Why don't you go with them, the 3 of them, so we invite the 3 countries to have a little consultation. We like that. That's very UN. Informal consultation. I think my colleague from South Africa has a lot of experience, and so we let this process happen. Now that's. Were there any other questions on the process and on how we are proceeding? I think we should just take a moment of break otherwise. Let's take a 10 minutes break. And what time is it? Is it actually time of the coffee break already? Why don't we can take an early coffee break and see whether the coffee is available and reconvene in 15 minutes here. Thank you very much. Yes, excuse me. Yes?
Yeah, my name is Cleophas Kio from Kenya. I have a suggestion on the issue of membership. Could be those countries that are interested in joining the various membership groups. Can we, of course, propose to join them at this time?
Thank you. To the conclusion of the main meeting. We were in the discussion of the working groups. Let me first express my real gratitude. It's a pleasure to work with you. I think we made a lot of progress this morning. I was very happy that we had so many expressions of people interested to, or countries interested to work together. So that's a very good sign. We had one point pending, that was this working group 3 and the proposal that the 4. I'm a statistician, I can't count. There were 3 co-conveners proposed, and they had a little meeting, and I understand there is an outcome from this meeting. Would somebody from the meeting like to inform the group about the outcome of this meeting? Did the 3 countries agree on one lead convener?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for giving me the opportunity. Actually, we met and we all agreed that the man from Cote d'Ivoire should be the convener. and we all agree to serve and support him in the meeting, in building up capacity. But I would like to ask here that it's not just for West Africa alone, it's for the whole of Africa. Thank you, sir.
So thank you very much. This was a very open and transparent process, and I think we are all happy with the outcome, and congratulations. We are looking forward to working with Côte d'Ivoire and of course all the others, because I mean you will be active members of the group, I understand, which is already reflected in the little table on the front. So this would conclude our work on our discussion on the working group. And I would like to thank again all of those who have agreed to take a lead function, both in the Transitional Bureau and in the working groups. We really need your support, and we hope we can take this working stream forwards. And of course, I know you are in good hands with the ECA colleagues at the Secretariat. And we will try to support you as much as we can from, unfortunately, a large distance in New York. But so the last point of our business is to look at the conclusions and the outcome of this meeting. Andre has prepared a note for us. And as I said before, this is not a formal meeting, so we have no formal requirement to agree on a particular, I mean, on a particular format, but what he has written up here is very useful. So you have it all in front of you. Let me ask a first point of order. Would you like us to, would those colleagues, because of course this is only available in English, and I'm mindful that we have some colleagues here whose mother tongue and first language is not English. Would you like us to read the report to have it translated into French as we go? Or would you agree to look at it and just read it? And would you prefer us to read it, that you get the French translation? Is anybody? I see some nodding. Okay. So, Andre, do you want to do it or you want me to do it? I'll do it. Okay. So we have, this is the draft, and I will read it through for you, and then you can make clarifications and comments, and then we can see how far we can finalize this within the next half hour. I would like us to really be able to finish here before 12 o'clock. And there are a number of housekeeping, we want to have a sort of final remarks ceremony, and there are some housekeeping announcements, so we have about half an hour. Okay, this is the summary, proposed summary report. The United Nations Secretariat has launched, do the interpreter have the text? No, that is not very good, they should. I would not want to have to translate this without having it in my hand. You have it? Thank you, and let me take this opportunity to thank our interpreters. They do a fantastic job. I never understand. I do speak several languages, but only one language at a time. I have never understood how a brain can listen to a language and translate at the same time in the other. I have tried that and I have failed, so I have the greatest admiration of our professional interpreters here. Okay. Let me read then the text of the summary report. The United Nations Secretariat has launched the Global Geospatial Information Management Initiative, establishing a formal mechanism to coordinate GGIM activities involving member states as the key players. ECA has organized an inception meeting on GGIM in Africa to, 1, discuss the critical aspects and agree on a basic set of concepts, practices, standards, and guidelines for establishing a chapter of GGIM in Africa, and 2, review and validate roadmap outlining a framework of actions with related responsibilities, timescales, and costs. The meeting was opened by Mr. Stefan Schweinfest, Director of the UN Statistics Division, who welcomed the delegates, gave the background of the meeting, and presented the aims as well as objectives of the meeting. The primary objective of the meeting was to discuss, adopt, and endorse a regional body charter to coordinate GGIM activities in Africa. The meeting had the expectations Continental Caucasus could inherit the same governance mechanisms and missions as those of the former CODIST GEO, while strengthening the regional efforts by aligning the unique needs and interests of Africa with international mechanisms. Specifically, the meeting discussed the desirable avenues to develop a broad plan of actions that must steer the future implementation of the initiative. During the meeting, member states and selected experts were invited to present brief perspective on the subject based on current developments in their sector and/or country. The presentations were discussed and reviewed for relevance, coherence, and complementarities in relation to the African situation and international status. The meeting was attended by nearly 30 participants, delegates from 11 African countries, and observers from international organizations, including the African Union Commission, ECA, and the United Nations Secretariat, and the private sector. Acknowledging, and here now we start with a sort of resolution type of text, so acknowledging that geospatial information science and technology and related disciplines are now commonly found as the driving force of many applications and services in industrial and socio-economic development, offering a radically different way in which we produce and use information required to manage our communities and economic activities. Acknowledging the key role of ECA in providing a regional focus and leadership for geospatial information activities in Africa, noting decades of ECA and member states' efforts and progress in building spatial data infrastructures in Africa, taking cognizance of the global initiative to bring statistics and geography together through the Global Geospatial Information Management Initiative, and realizing the need for the African voice to continue to be heard in the global arena of geospatial information management. The participants at the inception meeting of Global Geospatial Information Management concluded and resolved as follows. Express support for mainstreaming geospatial information infrastructures all the way through training, data, and processes into National Statistics Office activity in Africa and their linkages with national statistical development strategies in line with the GGIM initiative and the recommendations of Statcom Africa. Declare the creation of the African Caucus of the United Nations Global Geospatial Information Management Initiative, so-called UN GGIM-Africa, with ECA as Secretariat of the entity. Recommends that the overseeing and management functions of the former Geoinformation Subcommittee of CODIST be transferred to an equivalent subcommittee of Statcom Africa with the name of UN GGIM Africa. Urges ECA to retain specific programmatic activities in the field of geoinformation, particularly the advance of holistic geospatial information management and governance, the promotion of national spatial data infrastructures, the development of partnership and international and regional cooperation on space science and technology, the promotion of geographical names, standardization, and common geodetic reference frames, the fostering of streamlined online application, the development of core fundamental data sets in support of regional initiatives, the promotion of geospatial standards and interoperable common tools, and the building of a comprehensive, holistic, vision-driven, long-term, transformative development of capacities. 5, encourages member states to participate in and contribute to the work of the UN Committee of Experts on GGIM. 6, requests Statcom to bring these recommendations, Statcom or the Economic Commission of Africa through its African Center of Statistics, to bring these recommendations to the consideration of the Conference of African Ministers of Finance, Planning, and Economic Development for adoption and endorsement. So thank you for your patience of reading this. Thank you for the Secretariat of putting this report together, which has many passages that we recognize that come from the concept note and so on and so forth, and I think is an excellent summary of the main points that we discussed over the last 2 to 3 days. Now, of course, we need to add to this still our decision from this morning, because that was only done this morning. Of course, we could not reflect this in this draft report, but I think we can trust the Secretariat that they will add a few paragraphs reflecting our decisions on the Transitional Bureau and the creation of the working groups and their conveners and how they would function. So we need to add to this a little bit so that the report will be complete, but we will do that at the Secretariat. I would just invite you now to, and don't worry about some editorial corrections, because I believe there is the one or the other sentence that can be improved, but we will do that in close cooperation, of course, with the Secretariat. What I suggest now is that we have a short discussion of the main points. If you feel that something is inaccurate or that something important is missing, then we will collect that information, and then we would preliminarily adopt the report with the invitation to the Secretariat to complete it and send it to the Transitional Bureau for final approval. This is my proposal as a process. So we will just now collect the main points, then give it to the Secretariat to finalize with the corrections that are necessary and the elements that are missing from this morning's discussion, then send it to the Transitional Bureau for final review, and then this is the final report of our meeting. May I invite now comments on this text? Sure, I see one colleague, a colleague from Morocco. Thank you.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Et remerciements au secrétariat pour ce résumé important. Je voudrais juste, peut-être, s'il y a lieu de mettre quelque chose en liaison avec le bureau transitoire et les groupes de travail qui ont été créés, que vous avez signalé d'ailleurs, mais en signalant le deadline de la création formelle du GGIM lors du prochain GGIM global. Je pense que c'est vraiment l'horizon. Il faut le signaler parce que ça donne quand même une vision au pays sur ce qui doit être fait pendant cet horizon. Merci.
Thank you very much, and I think that's a very important point that we capture the deadlines that were established, and I thank you for this. Naima, did I see your hand? Do you want to? Sorry?
I have a comment on the report itself. Sorry.
Okay.
So now or maybe later?
Yes, no, now.
For the full report, not the summary.
Okay.
Okay. Just for the session 5.3 Engagement, I would suggest that maybe to say Ms. Naima, not Namia, Naima. Okay, just first correct my name and surname.
Thank you.
Naima Friha, without H and not Namia, Naima, made a presentation on the engaging work in developing standardized geographical names. She recalled the engaging structure, its functioning way, and maybe say she also mentioned the contribution of engaging with the ECA to promote geographical names in Africa. And made some recommendations essentially about assisting the geographical name standardization in Africa. Because I think the focus should be put this, how Engaging has contributed and is contributing to promote the geographical names in Africa. Just here, what is written here is only the structure of Engaging, and thank you. I can write this for him.
Okay, thank you. I think you are now referring, I have just read the summary report for the benefit of our non-English speakers. Of course, we have the detailed report, and I would suggest then that we send both to the participants of this meeting and collect their corrections for the report. So you will get an opportunity to do this. But if there are any main points that you would like to reflect at this point, somebody feels that we forgot something important, or we have something inaccurately reflected. Yes, South Africa, please.
Chair, just clarification, because I thought you said if there are any sort of texts, corrections, we can send them there. But I think these might not, be known by some of our colleagues. I just want clarification on the summary report. The last sentence on page 1 talks about taking cognizance of the global initiative to bring statistics and geography. Is it not supposed to be geospatial information?
Thank you. I think you're absolutely correct, and I think I stumbled over it when I was reading it, but I mean, absolutely correct. We should consistently use the word geospatial information, so that we have we will correct, the Secretariat will correct that.
Okay, and then on the second page under 3 recommendations that the overseeing and management functions of the former Geoinformation Subcommittee of CODIST, is it supposed to be transferred or integrated? Because here we're saying we're being transferred now to something else, but we're talking about a new sort of initiative, which is GGIM. So I think for me, I think it should be integrated.
Integrated. I think if the colleagues from ECA don't have a problem with that, I think we capture the spirit better, I think, with that. Okay. Thank you. These important corrections. Yes, please.
Sorry, it just maybe on that particular point, the wording or the use of the term transferred actually comes from the CODIS resolution of 2013, where it's read there, recommend, this is sub 2 of that particular resolution, recommend that the oversight and supervisory functions of the Geoinformation Subcommittee of CODIS be transferred to an equivalent subcommittee of SATCOM Africa with the name GGIM-Africa. So that's where the word is coming. Andre has copied and pasted here.
Of course, I'm not knowledgeable enough to have, this background, so thank you for this addition. Perhaps we can check the language, go back and check the resolution language, and if it's helpful, perhaps to refer to it explicitly. I would then actually suggest to my colleagues from ECA that they actually quote it, and then it should be put in quotation marks with a reference to whatever code that particular report has. I know in the UN we always have complicated codes, whatever ECA /something 475, 1752, and so. And then we should put those references in. So.
Yes, I think you're correct that we should reference that resolution because this is not something coming out of the air. Likewise, I think it is important also that we do reference the ECOSOC resolution as well in GGIM, because it shows to STATCOM and to the Council of Ministers that where's all this coming from. There is there are already resolutions on this.
That is correct. It would be helpful to put in that reference of I think we're talking about the global initiative, so it's very simple to put a footnote or a bracket there and reference the adequate point. Okay, are there any other issues? Yes, thank you, for Ethiopia.
I'm appreciative of South African comment on regarding again the same point, CODIS, transfer, you can transfer something to the other. Meaning, I think CODIS is supplanted for GGIM, yes? It's completely, now CODIS becomes what? GGIM. For clearance, I'm asking. I think it is, the word supplant is the exact term for CODIS, supplanted for CODIS. GGIM, I think I propose that.
Thank you. I think for the sake of safety in the United Nations, it's always good to refer to the official language that was adopted. So if I think 2 years ago or 3 years this must have been, I'm asking the colleagues who were there, that what I suggest is if we put it in quotation marks, then we know it is clear it's a reference to what has you can say in the sentence that the meeting, the spirit is captured that this new body takes over the functions in line with perhaps we could add half a sentence that it said that the group agreed or to create this GGIM-Africa to take over the functions of CODIS in line with the CODIS decision, and then you open a quotation mark and then you put exactly the language and you put the reference. Perhaps that's the best way of dealing with it.
A possible way is just to use the wording that this meeting reaffirms the resolution of CODIS GEO, and we reference that.
Yes, Tunisia, please.
Je m'excuse, je vais parler en français, c'est plus simple pour moi. Donc j'ai lu les résolutions, mais moi j'ai voulu, bon, d'après mon expérience, ajouter quelque chose, si c'est possible. C'est que chaque pays a bon, des réglementations, des lois, bon, des normes, etc. Donc pourquoi ne pas mettre en considération la spécificité de chaque pays, le mentionner d'une façon, bon, bien sûr, politique ou comme vous l'appelez, bon, pour qu'il y ait plus de sens pour cette résolution. Et merci.
Thank you. Do you have a specific language or a specific line that you would like to suggest, or?
According to the specific laws and in the country. For example, we can promote according to the laws and regulation specific of this country. For example, but it's not just the idea.
Do you have a, like, perhaps if you want to look at the text for a minute or two and we can come back to you, and you can make a proposal that in this particular paragraph or that you would like to add, taking into account the legal specificities, frameworks of each country. Perhaps that would be the most practical. So we'll come back to your proposal. Are there any other proposals, concerns, questions? If that is not the case, I wanted to thank the Secretariat again, I think, for this very, very good first summary that you have given us. I would then, pending the addition that we will just hear from our Tunisian colleague, propose the following procedures: that this meeting agrees that this is with this first summary, and entrusts the Secretariat to finalize it, taking into account all the comments that we heard today, and then sending it to the Transitional Bureau for final approval. And when this is done, of course, it would be sent out to everybody as a record of this meeting. And I'm sure if you are reading this, because we didn't read the long report, but if you read the long report and you discover that there are some corrections necessary, like for instance the corrections of name of Madame, we want to get this right. So please tell the Secretariat, write the Secretariat an email and say, we need to correct this sentence. This is not correct what I said in the report, because this is or my name is not spelled correctly. So please let the Secretariat hear. I was wondering, do you want to make a special proposal? Okay. Where did we correct the language, or what is it? Can we? Okay, I understand that there was already, yes, but let me just read it so that everybody knows what we just did. We added one sentence there, I can of course not read this from here, taking into account the specification of legal frameworks in each participating country. That is of course understood always. We cannot impose anything on countries that they don't want to do or are unable to do. That is not the spirit of the United Nations. So again, I would encourage you, read it through, give any corrections that you may have in writing to the Secretariat, and yes, we have to go, I'm aware, that's why I'm trying to wrap up here. Then, as I said, the procedure is if you have any specific corrections, give them to the Secretariat in the next, let's say, week maximum. Let's fix 1 week. If you have any corrections, the names, the presentation, your titles, and something, give them to the Secretariat. Then the Secretariat will finalize the report, taking into account your corrections, taking into account what we just discussed here, and then we'll send it to the Transitional Bureau for final review and adoption, and then we have an outcome of this meeting. So I congratulate you for this. So I think housekeeping, yeah. I think we have about 10-15 minutes to go over to the other side to join our colleagues for the final thing. I would like to make 1 minute closing remark, but before I do that, I know there are housekeeping announcements. And Derek, I see you are...
Sorry, yes, before we come to the housekeeping, perhaps I would not make the presumption that I'm speaking on behalf of all the participants, but hopefully I am. And would like to thank you for your able chairmanship of this meeting. And in particular, we are pleased as Africans that we have received the United Nations Statistics Division here in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll try to be quick, but not speak too quick for the interpreters. Just reminders, let reception know when your date and time of flight so as they can arrange transport to the airport. Do not forget your solidarity tax, also payable at reception. All the documents will be on the UCA website. If you can't get to it, please email us. Now, for ease of email, we have a GGIM-Africa at uneca.org. Andre, can you just put that up on the screen, so the GGIM email, just so as people are aware of it? The GGIM-Africa email address at UNECA. The reason we try to use one generic email is so as if Andre or myself or someone else is not in the office, someone is going to actually read it. Please be aware with UN email, there is a 10 megabyte limit, so do not, if you need to get something big to us, we'll have to do other arrangements. Many thanks for your enthusiasm over the last 3 days. It has been very good to see. And again, thank you to Stefan and Amor coming from New York, and also to the interpreters for putting up with my horrible accent. Thank you.
Well, I will give also the floor to my colleague Amor, who of course helped me a lot to be prepared for this meeting.
Thank you, Stefan. Yes, I'm very pleased to be, I have to talk as a Tunisian. Yes, I'm very pleased that the GGIM-Africa is born in Tunisia. And I think I would like to go back to history a little bit. I am one of the founding members of CODI in 1999 when I was representing Tunisia at that time before going to UN. And I think based on my experience, maybe CODIST, GEO, and it was confined a little bit only to Africa. Then now with UN GGIM-Africa, I think we are giving the scope, even it's still regional, but it is at the global level. I think this is a chance for Africa to come forward and to work actively. This is a momentum also. The last word I want to make sure that we are also, I am very involved in this integration of geospatial and statistical information. I think this is a chance to work together, and I would like to make a call to all the national mapping agencies I know very well, I am GIS person, and I know the National Mapping Agency. You have to talk to your statistical offices. They are your clients. You have to exchange with them. You are the providers of base maps, but they are also the providers of statistical data. You have to work with them, especially when they have the census, they have the resources, you can be their client. Just based on my experience, then we have to coordinate and have to talk to them. And I would like to thank you. Thank you, Stefan.
Okay, so we are coming to the end of this meeting, and it is my great pleasure and privilege to have been part of this meeting as your facilitator. I think we will need a lot of energy and commitment to take this forward, and I've been very inspired by your contributions. I think there is a lot here happening in Africa already. This is what I take away when I leave tomorrow, unfortunately. There is a lot happening in your countries. You are doing wonderful work in different areas. There is a lot happening at regional level. You have regional institutions that are strong partners of the countries. There are old things happening and new things happening, and we need both. We need everything on the table. There is space for everything. We have people who have long experience with the processes and can bring that historical perspective to the table, so that we are rooted in what was done before. We are not wasting our time reinventing the wheel. And we have new people at the table that bring new dynamics and new ideas, new perspectives and to the table. And we need all of this. We need each and everybody. So I hope you all go back and talk to your colleagues and bosses and also to other colleagues in other countries when you meet them who couldn't be here today. But I think this is sort of Amor used the word born. I mean, so the metaphor is a baby was born. So I think we have a strong baby screaming on the table, UN GGIM-Africa. And we have to make sure that that baby keeps screaming at the top of his or her lungs and learns how to walk and marches forward now. And again, it has been my privilege to be part of this process. Let me give a couple of thanks. First to our Tunisian hosts who have created a wonderful environment, have been very generous and gracious in many aspects of this meeting. Then of course to my colleagues in the ECA Secretariat who've done a lot of work. I know how much work it is to prepare a meeting, many papers that have to be written, phone calls answered, emails going back and forth. So I would like to thank you for your hard work and for your future work already. I would like to thank all of the interpreters and the hotel staff for the work, because all of this is necessary to make a meeting happening. I would like to thank all of our partners from different organizations from other countries around the world. And I wanted to thank Amor for always prepping me for this meeting. I would not have been as prepared as I hope I was if he had not always given me all the information that I need to better understand the country and the region here. And at the end, I wanted to thank all of you for your enthusiasm, and I just really want to wish you all the best, wish all of us the best as we are going forward in this important initiative. So thank you, and I'm looking forward to meeting all of you again at future meetings. Andre, we have some announcement?
Yes, maybe how do we proceed in the joint sessions right now? Maybe we need a share of the Bureau to be reading the summary and the recommendations during the meeting.
Sorry? Andre, perhaps we can discuss this outside, no problem. Thank you very much, Andre.